and welcome to a brand new episode of InstacarHK. Today, I am reviewing this brand new 2024 ZEEKR X. Yes, I have finally jumped on the bandwagon and am reviewing a Chinese EV. And there's no better time to do so because Chinese EVs have been making a lot of noise globally, within Asia and beyond. ZEEKR is part of the huge Chinese auto manufacturer Geely. It is created by Geely, its own homegrown brand, and it's a relatively new brand. It was only launched in 2021, and it's meant to be a more luxurious and prestigious brand under the Geely portfolio. Now, ZEEKR has just launched in Singapore. It was launched last month in August, and this is the first model they're bringing in. The ZEEKR brand is so new that when I went to pick it up yesterday from the very kind staff at ZEEKR, their showroom was not even completed yet. I think they're launching their showroom end of this month in September. So back to this car, this is the ZEEKR X. It's meant to be an affordable compact SUV under the ZEEKR lineup. There are two models of the ZEEKR X. One is the standard model with rear-wheel drive, a 200 kilowatt battery producing 272 horsepower with 343 Newton meters torque with a range of 440 kilometers. Then there's the flagship model, which is the more performance model with 314 kilowatts battery producing 428 horsepower. The 0 to 100 for the flagship model, 3.8 seconds. But this is the standard model, and it has a 0 to 100 speed of 5.6 seconds. Now, we only got the standard model, unfortunately, because the flagship model has been loaned to another media by ZEEKR. But I'm not that disappointed because I do think, given the roads in Singapore, this city-state, the standard model with the less horsepower and less power may actually be quite suitable as well. Now, this standard ZEEKR X model is being listed at 199,999 Singapore dollars, which basically is 200,000 Singapore dollars. The flagship model actually doesn't cost that much more at 215,000 Singapore dollars. Now, in normal markets, the decision is probably easy. Just for 15K more, it's probably better to get the performance, more powerful flagship model. However, this being Singapore, where road tax is charged by the horsepower output of a car, the standard model is actually a lot cheaper with the road tax at only $2,000 a year, 2,000 Singapore dollars a year. Whereas the flagship model is more than double of that at 4,400 Singapore dollars a year, more than double of this one. In any event, both cars comes with an 8-year battery warranty or 160,000 kilometers warranty. So if you buy one, there's a long way to go with it, definitely. So it's time to go for a drive, and the great thing is ZEEKR has actually lent me the car for 3 whole days. They just gave me the key and then say, have fun with it, come back in 3 days' time. Now that is something you never come across with Hong Kong dealers due to the T-plate and insurance restrictions. So I look forward to really trying out and really living with this car and telling you guys how it's like. Now, sitting in this car immediately, you know it's a high-tech modern car. There are things like the wireless phone charger here where you just pop it in and it charges on its own. There's a refrigerator here, which the kind lady at ZEEKR gave me 2 chocolate lollipop to enjoy after this very hot day. Like all modern EVs now, there is a LED screen right in the middle, touch screen with everything you need to do. There's a smaller display screen here which acts as your dashboard, showing you the temperature, the range, your speed, etc, etc. You sit here and immediately you feel the sort of materials around the car. You see all these leather-like material here, which is actually not real leather. It's described as vegan-friendly material. And it actually looks and feels quite okay to the touch. So it does give you a higher class, a more luxurious feel. So that I like. Although it's 200,000 Singapore dollars here, but that's only because Singapore cars are expensive with the COE and everything, as I described in all my other Singapore videos. But in other markets, in Hong Kong, for example, this is actually a budget or a budget-friendly compact SUV. So in Hong Kong, this car sells for the base model. I think it sells for 250 Hong Kong thousand dollars. And you can see where the budget friendliness comes in. So ignoring the nice fake leather, there are some parts here, the plastic parts down here, you know, with the door pockets, the middle here. These are pretty cheap feeling and cheap looking plastics, but they are at the bottom. They do try to hide it out. So I think for most intent and purposes, you can ignore it. The seats, they have these beautiful one-piece seats that looks great, so, and it feels comfortable. The car doesn't disappoint. You don't sit in it and feel, oh, what a cheap car. You don't get that feeling. And there's a beautiful Yamaha sound system, which sounds great. And later I can play some music and show you guys. The ZEEKR really puts a lot of effort in the sound system and the interior lighting with that. So yeah, the front is good. The rear, I have had my missus sat at the back last night, and apparently it's not that comfortable, the rear. The seats are a bit low, but then it's also kind of curved, so you feel like you're kind of sitting in a bucket. And also the side door seals are very high, and you don't really see outside. I think Junior would hate it because kids like looking out the windows and whatnot, but the rear window opening is pretty small at the back. So yeah, these are sort of my first impression. Oh, and a huge panoramic roof on the top. That's pretty cool. Right, so time to go. You press on the brake, and then the seat goes to your previously saved position. The gear stick is like the Tesla, is on the right, you know, push down to D. But yeah, all very new. I mean, I have driven high-tech new cars before, but it's always so new to me because, as you all know, I'm a classic car guy. I'm used to classic cars. Even my dailies are more conventional cars like the Harrier and the Lexus and, of course, the Volvo T5R. So it's always refreshing to sit in a high-tech new EV car, but they are great. I mean, they do offer good stuff. Like, we've been filming under the hot Singapore sun. The screen here says the outside ground temperature is 45 degrees Celsius, so you can imagine how hot it has been. But we were able to keep the aircon running, as you do with EVs, not having to worry about whether the engine will be too hot, whether the aircon will be hot. And these sort of perks are just great with EVs, so I do understand why people like them. So initial thoughts: visibility, great, huge window at the front, huge window on the top, huge side windows. But one thing which I'm not that happy with is the internal rear view mirror. It's unnecessarily small. So it's kind of weird where you have great visibility, great vision everywhere, and the moment you look up to look at the back, it's like tiny. And I don't understand why, given that's the easiest thing to make bigger. Aircon, everything as you expect is good. So now ZEEKR described this car as able to equip you for adventures in the city and beyond. So immediately we are starting from the CBD, Central Business District of Singapore, and let's see how it performs. It's a comfortable place to be in, but it can be more comfortable. Small things like the side here is a bit far, so you can't really do the usual cruising, arm on the door kind of thing. It doesn't have as much of that cruising tour element, which I guess, you know, as a compact SUV, that's not what it's intended for, so I guess that's forgivable. Now you see, it's very sensitive, the technology. A motorcycle just stopped by very close to me just now. Immediately the screen pops up with its external camera showing and warning me about the motorcycle on the side. So these things, see, and then it'll make the beeps, all these different beeps and noise and whatnot, to warn you of things. So yeah, the car is, it knows what you're doing all the time, put it this way. Right, so we have just left the city center and now entering into more highway type of roads. I've also have some more mileage under my belt, and just to see how this car drives in more open roads. Now, first off, I actually don't have much EV experience. All of it has pretty much from my dad's Teslas. He had a Model S and then a Model 3. And I think especially with the Model 3, they feel quite similar in terms of the materials, the ride, and the sort of power delivery and whatnot. So I think that's kind of the thing with EVs, is that everyone just kind of gets equalized, particularly for these more budget and entry-level EVs. So speaking of the ride quality, yes, ZEEKR is supposed to be a more luxurious, prestigious brand under Geely, but at the end of the day, this car is really more of a budget-friendly, compact SUV. So things like the ride quality is acceptable, but it's no Rolls Royce, right? It's not on any electronic adjustable suspension. In fact, the front they use McPherson struts, and the rear they use a 5-link suspension. So you do feel the ride does feel more like a normal car, but like I said, it's acceptable. Right, so we've just changed locations, and I wanted to take this opportunity to show you the auto parking function of this car. So here we're in the car park, and I will pick the parking function, and then it will search for parking space for me. So they saw one on my right, but I want a more difficult one. So we'll go further front. See, okay, this one. So they highlighted this possible parking space here. So I'm gonna press it, I'm gonna pick it, and then I press start parking, and then it does the job. See now, hands free, I'm not doing anything. And then it'll start parking. Going in. Okay, it's not the fastest parker, but and there we're in. Took some hesitation at the front, but now we're in. Now it's very confidently backing up. So I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about the exterior of the car. Now, as with most Chinese EVs, they're very good with the lines and the lights and whatnot. They all look very modern. But one thing I do really appreciate about the ZEEKR is they really have their own design language. Like since the 001FR to the 009, they have a ZEEKR trademark look. You look at this and you know it's a ZEEKR, which is not something you can say about some of the other Chinese EV manufacturers. Some of the brands I really have no idea what brand they are until I look at the badge. But this, you look at the lights and the design language, you immediately know this is a ZEEKR. Now, one thing with these modern EVs, particularly Chinese EVs, is they have a lot of functions internally. So it's not necessarily just about the driving, but a lot of functions for use when you're stationary. And particularly with Chinese EVs, there are also a lot of gimmicky technology that they include in the car, and it will be impossible to show you all, but I'll show you some. First, there is this internal computer person that you can talk to by addressing it, "Hi, ZEEKR."
Good afternoon.
So it's really talk, and you can give them these audio instructions. Please open front windows for me.
Say that again.
Please open front windows. Ta-da! Hands free. So, right. So that's one thing. And then I'm now looking at the screen. Oh, I don't even know where to start. So we start here. External audio player. I freaking love this. It's so funny. this is where it only works when you are in park, but this is where the car makes sounds outside of the car. So first of all, there's a thanks for giving way one, which is this.
Thank you for giving way. Wish you all the best.
But if you can only do it with the car parked, I'm not sure how that's useful. But there's a pedestrian first one, which asks the pedestrian to cross the road. This kind of makes sense, I guess.
You're welcome to go first. Be careful.
But the funniest thing is they make animal noises or different other sort of machine noises. So here's a cat one, which I think is hilarious. And then there's the horse one, which is also hilarious. It's just, it's very Chinese EV stuff. I mean, it's completely useless in the real world, but it's pretty funny. And then finally, there's a sports car sound it can make. This sounds like actually a V12 Aston Martin, I think. But yeah, so stuff like that is just pretty funny. And then there's also different modes, tons of stuff you can do. There's also a pet mode. A pet mode is for, and you go buy something and you leave your pets in the car, which for conventional cars, of course, that is terrible. The pet could die under the sun and whatnot. But this, in this car, you can put on the pet mode, and the car would have the aircon and everything, circulation for the pet to be comfortable in. Yeah, so just a lot of different functions, which some are useful, some are gimmicky, but either way, good things to have. You don't have to use if you don't. So yeah, pretty cute. So finally, the storage space of this car, decent, not great, but again, it's a compact SUV, so it's not a huge car expected to take a lot of stuff. The front, there's this tiny box storage space at the front, which is not that useful, maybe for some groceries shopping. At the rear is okay size, but I went to play golf with my friend, for example, and it couldn't fit a normal sized golf bag. We had to put down the seats, but it still fit, but I just had to put down the seats. But other than that, the size is okay. So yeah, and this comes to the end of our review. Really, I've been really grateful to have been able to use the car for a couple of days. I'm very thankful to ZEEKR for lending me the car for so long. It gave me a lot of time to really experience, enjoy, and digest the experience with the car. And it has been a fun few days. Like I said, I went to play golf with my friends. I drove around. We took Junior in the car. He loves it. We pop on the baby seat, which is super easy. It uses the ISOFIX as well, and cars these days, as expected, but super accessible, the ISOFIX anchor points. So we drove around a lot, and on that note, I actually didn't get to review the charging of this car, because this car has 440 kilometers range at full charge. When I picked up the car 3 days ago, it was at full charge, so it had 440 kilometers. And Singapore being a small place, I mean, I tried my hardest, but I only got down to 200 kilometers. It's quite easy. It's adaptable to all the public chargers in Singapore. And as long as you have the app, SP or whatever power companies, then you can easily charge the car. And there's, yeah, so we didn't get to experience that this time, but that shouldn't be a huge problem. So the ZEEKR X, it does the job. It's a good car. I mean, it is, like I mentioned, a budget-friendly compact SUV. It's comfortable, it's safe. Safety is very good in this car. It's easy to drive. It has a lot of technology, as I've shown you throughout the review. I particularly enjoyed the quirky, gimmicky stuff with the horse noises. There was also a light show. so that's fun, and I guess it is a new experience for me. Reviewing an EV. It's difficult. It's really difficult because the stuff I talk about is so much different from what I'm normally used to. When I review a classic car, I'm talking about the car's character, the car's feel, how it feels to drive, behavior and whatnot. But with modern EVs, as I mentioned earlier, they all kind of drive similar, especially for more budget-friendly ones. So there's really not much to talk about in terms of the driving, but a lot to talk about in terms of the functions, the features, the gimmicks. So I spend more time talking inside the car than driving the car, which I guess is the new normal with these high-tech EVs now. They are just relatively not as characterful. All in all, I like the ZEEKR. I think it does the job. It's going to be a really competitive EV in the Singapore market because for the money, it does provide a lot, and it is a very good car, very comfortable to live with. So yeah, that's my conclusion of the ZEEKR X. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like, please subscribe, please remember to click the bell button next to the subscribe button so you know when our next video is. Thank you and have a good day.